to Conscious Matters. It's a safe space where we chat about how living consciously matters to our well being, to the one of our surroundings and loved ones, as well as to the earth and humanity as a whole. Join me, Melissa DeBerry, for inspiring conversations with some of the most beautiful souls out there. Individuals who are helping others to reach their higher selves and who bring light into this world. In every episode, we talk about conscious matters such as self-love, awareness, personal development, holistic practices, and much more. We expand on our experiences, share tools that help live in peace, harmony, and alignment on a daily basis. We discuss about what we've learned along our healing journey. Get your mind, body, and soul ready for a ride in consciousness. Namaste, listeners. I probably touched upon this topic in the flow of previous episodes, but recent personal events made me want to make an entire episode dedicated to this subject. It's probably going to be a shorter talk as this is an impromptu episode. Not like I don't know that I release an episode every month, but in a sense that I was supposed to release a convo on an entirely different topic. Anyway, let's talk about a specific modern reality that most of the time hinders our best self. Yes, I'm talking about the one and only star of capitalism, right after money, performance productivity, the one which is often the cause of depression, anxiety, imposter syndrome, self-sabotage, and many more mental and physical health issues. Some that I personally experienced in the past and thought I was done with, but I guess some things like to creep in from time to time. Fun times. Anywho, glorified productivity. I believe glorified productivity can be defined as where the value put on excessive performance is present when being busy is worn like an honor badge. There's absolutely nothing wrong with being busy. I even encourage it, but here I'm talking about the kind of busyness that becomes extremely unhealthy, yet the kind that is praised by our society. The one that not only gets you stuck in the rat race, but also deters your mental health. Even when detaching from the hustle culture, it still has been programmed inside of us since we were a kid. From being praised when getting good grades and shunned when getting bad ones, competition with your peers to get into the best schools, and securing the most prestigious internship, then the not so often justified hierarchy in the workforce when you see that you're more skilled than the person supposedly above you, being promoted when you're giving more than your all 24/7, and eventually getting demoted when you just have a few down days. So I'm talking about that kind of productivity. Even as an entrepreneur like myself, which requires a certain freedom mindset, we are still wired as students, interns, employees, which means that we expect of ourselves to bring in results all the time. And if not, it won't be a bad grade or losing your internship or being demoted in your position, but the risk of losing your income or your business. So the stakes are high, very high, which trigger a lot of big fears. Ask any entrepreneur, even in the wellness field, who knows so much about health. They're still going to tell you that they feel like crap or at least down when they're not productive or not bringing in results. Thank you, capitalist society and school systems. Let's not put the blame on them. Let's take our power back. Instant gratification with recognition, money, or a good grade is, to my mind, at the root of fake productivity. The type of performance productivity that requires of you to spend 8 hours a day supposedly working, when in fact we've only been focusing for 3 or 4, filling up the rest of the time with distractions, shallow work, even if sometimes necessary, like replying to emails, posting on social media for your business, reorganizing your desk or your files or whatever, scrolling on your phone, literally any task that is filling up your days that is neither urgent nor important. If you look closely at your workday, you'd find that a lot of the tasks that you are rushing around to get done are not all that productive. Except if you've already mastered the art of true and healthy productivity, then kudos to you. We're so trained to act busy, to do something, that I think we are being confused between work to fill the hours and actual deep work. the one that transports you in your zone and supports you in your creating. We end up working more, but getting less done. It doesn't make sense. Like it really doesn't. Nevertheless, is the reality of the majority of working people, myself included. So I'm not pointing fingers. I'm in the bunch. It just made me ask myself a few questions, like why productivity is even a core value we have as a society. Like who truly benefits from it? When we think about it, like men have a 24-hour cycle when women have a 28-day cycle. So can we really be all considered equal when we are required to be productive every single day, being 100%? Anyways, that's a whole other conversation, but I want to talk about performance productivity today. Why, as humans, especially the millennial generation, are we crippled with fears that lead us to incarnate a version of ourselves that is far from the reality we want to create and which messes with our mental health? Listen up to this, Jam. But before,
if you have few seconds of your time, I literally mean 5 seconds, thank you to review this episode just by leaving a few stars. A short review, that would be even better, but at least a few stars. That really helps with the algorithm for more people to hear about what I share here by myself or with amazing guests. That will help share the messages and helping people to live more consciously on a daily basis. I'll appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Okay, now let's get on with it. The last few years, I did build a lot of self-awareness. Never enough. As I always say, self-development is a lifetime process. But I'm not going to lie. I'm the type of person who thrives on accomplishments, very goal-oriented, feeling amazing, confident, and happy when I'm productive, and feeling down, guilty, and frustrated with myself when I'm not productive. When I feel like the latter, I unconsciously find ways to distract myself from me accepting the fact that I'm feeling down because I decided that day to associate my worth to my productivity and performance results. I'm working on it. I am. Personally, I don't know if you can relate, but when I usually feel off key or simply very bored, I instantly immerse myself in reading, binge watching videos, opening my email inbox a million times in a short amount of time, scrolling through social media. At some point, I was so desperate to look for another distraction that I even re-downloaded Tumblr. Like Tumblr, y'all, the platform nobody used for years, at least me. Yeah. All addictions are anchored in fear, in this desire to escape an uncomfortable inner state, whether it's an addiction to work, food, substances, or screens. Let's be honest here. How hard do you find it to get away from screens, especially when nowadays everything revolves around some type of screen? Work, therapy, socializing, hobbies, and many, many, many other things. So without going into many details, I was so pumped to start this new year with a lot of ideas, projects in mind, big plans to switch so many things. But the universe had other plans for me. Yeah. I started the year completely sick for literally the whole month of January. I'm rarely sick. So that was a big one. That was a big one. I could barely do anything, which made me fall behind in my work. February came in, my health restored, thankfully, but I found myself completely stuck. At first, I was like, it's okay, it's just the aftermath of this temporary sickness. Also, several of my goals depended on external factors and other people to start the process, but them being on a completely different timeline as mine. If you notice, I didn't say time zone, but timeline. Yeah, everybody got their own rhythm. Admin work taking forever and their never ending procedures in different organizations and administrations. As the time was passing, the more the time was dragging itself weeks after weeks and nothing was changing productivity wise, the more I started to get anxious of the outcome. Then self-doubting the whole thing. Did I do everything right? in my head, like going over everything and I did, trying to see the moment I could have done things better or differently, to only end up victimizing myself. Like, there's no point of it all. Maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe I was delusional in thinking and achieving all of these goals. And that's when my mind started playing tricks on me, or at least tried it. I flinched. I started sulking little by little into my deep, dark rabbit hole, the one I was really not keen to re encounter. It's familiar, but extremely, extremely, extremely uncomfortable. Like I said previously, when you're in fear mode, even if my motto now is feel the fear and do it anyway, I still have my weaknesses that bring me back in fear mentality from time to time, even though it's rarer now. So I'm thankful for that. But in these moments, my general state could be summarized by mental saturation, overflow of things to do, maybe for work or personal life or both, mental overstimulation, and an avalanche of thoughts at all times, both in connection with learning, creativity, opportunities, and also in connection with my mental conversation, comparison, questioning, self-doubting, etc. It becomes a whole big tangled mess. It's dark, not fun at all, and triggers my anxiety and depression remnants. And I knew that it was partly related to my approach of performance productivity and my use of screen to escape the lack of that same performance productivity. The thinking process sometimes is ridiculous. Consistently receiving this abundance of information, communication channels when my head was already filled with everything I was supposed to plan, to do, and work on. So, yeah, this combo resulting in having scattered focus, low energy, feeling like constantly running after time since all of this information seemed to come and go faster and faster. I guess, as the majority of people with wanting to keep up, you also end up setting unrealistic expectations for yourself. If you're familiar with the documentary The Social Dilemma, you know that for each person, the flaw is different. Some refresh their inbox, others endlessly watch YouTube videos, and others read the news or scroll on social media for hours and hours, even on downtimes, weekends, and vacation. So that's sad. That's sad. Like, we struggle with either emptiness or with the fear of missing something, with the fear of being invisible or of not doing enough or of not being enough. It could also be with struggling with uncomfortable emotions or with boredom, usually stemming from the aforementioned. But ultimately, that screen time, when misused, cuts us off from the world around us, cuts us from our intelligence, from our judgment, from our knowledge of ourselves, from the diversity of our experiences. It could be screen or anything else we do to distract ourselves from our feelings. The result is the same. Like, we end up looking outside of ourselves to find the solutions to our issues instead of inside of ourselves. Yeah, it's something that seems so obvious, but I believe something that we have to remind ourselves from every single time, because our mind just goes wherever you want to go. So, yeah. But before going too deep into my rabbit hole, a switch happened in me. Thank you, self awareness. Thank you, self awareness. Self awareness is amazing because it makes you know yourself so well, how you function, so much so that you actually see when you're dipping and that you actually have the solutions and tools in your hand. That is, if you have done the not so fun inner work, of course. If you've been listening for a while, you know that I like to dig deep. From the moment I was aware of being dragged down, I mean, from the moment, let's say like a few moments, a few moments after the moment I was aware of being dragged down by this murky energy, I had to dig into the matter at hand and figure out what my current issue was. First, I've acknowledged that I was struggling in private while still putting a smiley face in public. Yeah, I do that sometimes. Yeah. Then I had a one off with my mind. I said to my mind, so you want to play? Let's play. And like all the times before, you might win some battles, but I'm going to win the war. You are not going to control me. Yes, I do talk to myself that I was about to say, like, this is something I'm working on, but no, I'm not working on that at all. That's one of my word quirk, and I embrace it. And it's actually very good to talk to yourself because you getting this thinking pattern, the thought pattern out loud, this reasoning that sometimes like really doesn't make sense. But it makes a lot of sense when it's like inside your mind. But when you voice it, you're like, oh my God, like this doesn't make sense. Anyways, I went within and asked myself why I was acting as such when I was healthy with zero physical obstacles and lots of mindfulness tools at hand, even though in that state I was obviously not using them. I was asking myself, what am I missing? Like, turns out it all came down to, first of all, me guilting myself because I was not being productive, which made me self punish and scold myself internally because I had zero reason to not be performing. Second of all, again, productivity. I had planned so many things to do, but falling behind at the very start of the year and still having to catch up with my current schedule when I was back on my feet, it just felt all too much. Like this huge, overwhelming feeling. And when you're in that state, you stop your regular way of looking at social media to get inspired and pumped to you too make these big bus moves. Instead, you start comparing the advancement of your journey to the ones of others, telling yourself, I should have been able to do that too, or I should be able to do that too. And if you notice, like your inner dialogue becomes a lot of should. Yeah. So you tell yourself, like, I should be able to do that too. If they manage to do that when they have X number of other businesses, the same age as you, a sick spouse, tons of children, and all of the other crazy obstacles someone can encounter, how come I can't do half of what they're beautifully doing? Then you start the self doubt, self deprecating, and so on. It's super unhealthy. And we're not about that unconscious matters. So let's reframe. It could be only for 5 minutes, but still, it screws up with your mind and your reality because it has nothing to do with the other person who's owning the journey and rightfully shine in their own light, but everything to do with you. And that, my dears, that's a hard pill to swallow because it's like getting splashed with an ice water bucket in your face, letting you know that you are the only one responsible for your own feelings and actions. How you decide to feel and act in that particular moment is actually your choice, stemming from your own free will. Obviously, I'm not including people who have severe mental illnesses that is only manageable with medication. That's a given. I'm probably going to get thrown stones and sticks for what I'm about to say, but having suffered from deep depression and anxiety in the past, so bad that I literally have had the hives every time my anxiety picked up, and to this day still have bouts or remnants of depression and anxiety coming and going in and out of my life now and then. That's where I'm coming from. So now I'm going to say it. I personally think that even when depressed, with your cortisol level all messed up compared to the more mentally stable person, you still have a choice. Even if it's hard to recognize that when you're in the midst of it, I acknowledge that. You recognize that choice, most probably with help like therapy and or sticking to your mindfulness tools like a life float. But that help and everything you usually do or say to make yourself better can relieve you from your depressive or anxious state. There, I said it. I did. Like, for example, with my story short earlier, I deliberately chose to sulk instead of being responsible for my actions and reactions, instead of trusting and being patient with myself and how things were supposed to unfold. I probably wouldn't have said that a few years back, or even in the midst of it a few weeks back. And I don't even know if I will stick to that statement in the future, but from my own experience, that's how I'm thinking right now. And there's nothing better than the present moment, right? I'm actually thankful for this repetitive experience in my life because it made me reframe my thought pattern, take new actions, and made me wonder if our performance productivity culture is the demise of humanity, or at least of our generation. After some deep self reflection, I think that the winning combo is finding the perfect equilibrium being between doing too much, because then you're falling into the hustle productivity performance cycle, and not doing enough when you just finding unproductive ways to distract yourself from your fears and feelings. In other words, not falling too far on either end of the control versus complacency spectrum. What is currently working for me? I mean, it's only been a few weeks. It's still a process, but I'll share it anyway, and you'll make your own recipe from it. So after feeling my feelings, then sulking, and then catching myself, I left this temporary victim mentality behind me, starting taking back responsibility for myself, putting my power back into my hands, making the life game rules play in my favor by creating an airtight yet sustainable schedule for me to follow blindly, just like a kid going through the motions of the schedule throughout the weekdays. But this time it was the schedule of the person I aspire to be and incorporating inside it work, but also self-care time, fun leisure time, and creativity time, as well as all of my mindfulness practices that I did leave behind during my short amount of time of sulkiness. So it's actually like combining all aspects of my life to find the balance that I crave for. I knew that what I needed to fall out of this anxiety depression cycle was a grounding framework that would support me, support my goals and dreams. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think as adults, we tend to forget to reparent ourselves on the daily. We forget that we're not human doings, but human beings. We are meant to just be sometimes. Actually, most of the time, we are meant to just be without the fluff of artificial busyness. So we go through the grind, chasing after time and hoping to get out of there in one piece, having overachieved everything on our to-do list, having our tasks taking over our day instead of being in control of our schedule. The reality is that we cannot be 100% productive along the whole journey. It's impossible as humans. We are not robots. We need to rest and to do a little bit less from time to time. I don't know if it's my generation only or not, but I feel like, talking from my own experience, of course, we don't give ourselves that time. Even if mindsets are changing beautifully with more awareness and mindfulness and wellness in general, we still have that voice inside of us telling us to do more and to produce more. So, yeah, when in reality, things not only take great efforts and work to groom themselves, but also time. It's just my little input to, or maybe realization, that it's time to let go of the result oriented only productivity mindset, the one that is said like when we're productive we're happy and proud, and when we're unproductive we feel like a failure, unworthy, and ultimately depressed. Let's switch it to enjoy the ups and downs of the journey, finding validation from within, not from an external result. That result being good or bad, it doesn't have any right to play with our mental health. If it's a good one, cool. If it's a bad one, cool too. It made me learn something new. It also helps seeing time differently, managing our scheduled tasks instead of our time. We all have 24 hours in a day. How we cut out distractions and prioritize our task are what is making the difference. Taking out distractions and relieve yourself from the pressure to have to be doing stuff all the time, even unimportant things. Oh, and letting go of toxic positivity too. Like when everything is crumbling around you, drop the social mask off. Be honest with yourself, feel your feelings, but don't sulk in them. Reach out to a loved one or your therapist to figure them out and bounce back. Bounce back. We've been through a collective roller coaster these past 2+ years. We've been feeling a lot of things, experienced crazy stuff, and many other things in between, on top of our own personal issues. And that's okay to not feel your best for a moment. Just take your energy back, nourish yourself, stay grounded in the present, not relieving icky feelings of the past, nor stressing about the future. Be present in the right now. My mental issues or obstacles were never something I talked about openly, even to my close circle. But I see now that it was from a place of guilt from feeling this way, from a fear of being judged, from not being seen as the go-getter, positive Melissa, from a fear of rejection. Who wants to hang out with a depressed / anxious person? And I can't believe that I'm so vocal about this publicly, like right now, but I felt called to share. So here I am, owning my truth. The more I embrace all parts of myself, even the ones deemed unlovable, the more I understand the importance of being vulnerable and sharing our hurdles. We are all struggling differently. So, what's the point of keeping it a secret when we can literally help each other, or we can at least help one person somewhere? So, to summarize, our way out of the rat race and performance productivity mindset would be by reassessing our goals, identifying what really matters, managing our schedule accordingly. So, setting strong, healthy boundaries with yourself and others, and be strategic with your time. Taking care of yourself, treat yourself kindly, please. Be gentle and patient with yourself. Self punishing and self abuse are not okay. Get out of your comfort zone by reframing your thoughts, loving yourself, and caring for yourself. Your energy is precious. Spread joy, positivity, and love always, but never forget about your own. And getting out of this performance productivity mindset, I think it's also about incorporating processes in your life to literally stream flow your life so you can get that free mind space to think about the actual important stuff. And finally, minding your own business. What others are doing is none of your business. It's not on your schedule. So focus on you and your craft. Don't compare, don't judge. Live and let live. Always choose your peace of mind and well being above anything else. The people around you will thank you for showing up as the healthiest version of yourself. Just remember that healing is a journey, a cycle with waves, ups and downs. It's everything but linear. And that's a wrap for me. I guess it was not as short as I initially thought that brain dump would be, but hey, that's what happens when I get the conversation started. As always, feel free to reach out on Instagram, where I'm back in active mode on there. I invite you to share at least one of your hurdle with a friend, a family member, your community online, anyone. And if you're bold enough with me, I'd love to read one from you in my DMs or in my email inbox. And even if you disagree with literally everything that I've been saying, I'd love to open my mind to more viewpoints. So the links are in the show notes as usual. And a disclaimer maybe that I should have said at the beginning, but is also a given, and that I often say, I share my own truth on this podcast, which specifically stems from my personality, my upbringing, my experiences, and my environment, etc. So, as always, take what resonates to make your own combo and leave the rest. On that note, take care of yourself, trust yourself, and always put your power in your own hands. You got this.
Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you to have taken the time to listen to me talking about conscious living. Conscious Matters is a self-produced podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review and or donate. 5 stars always preferred. Your support will help to keep on raising the collective consciousness together. Talk to you soon.